Hey folks, Mark Caples here, and today we're diving deep, literally and figuratively, into one of Central Texas's most sacred and endangered resources. Our groundwater, our springs, our future. From Barton Springs in Austin to Jacob's Well in Wimberley, these waters aren't just beautiful places to cool off. They're the beating heart of our region's water supply, our history, and our culture. But they're under serious pressure, and it's time we talk about it. Let's start with Barton Springs, a cool, consistent 68 degrees year-round and hands down one of the crown jewels of Austin, Texas. It's not just a swimming hole, it's a lifeline. Barton is fed by the Edwards Aquifer, a massive underground reservoir made of porous limestone. Picture a giant natural sponge, one carved over millions of years. Caves, tunnels, and passageways twisting through the rock. So how does water even get in there? Well, rainfall. When it rains over the hill country, especially in areas where the soil is thin or rocky, the water doesn't stick around on the surface. It seeps into the ground, filtering down through the cracks and into the limestone. This process is called recharge, and it's one of the most crucial steps in the water cycle here. Once underground, the water fills the gaps and pockets in the rock. Over time, the pressure builds, like squeezing a soaked sponge between your palms. And that pressure eventually pushes water back up to the surface in the form of a spring. And what you're swimming in when you dive into Barton Springs is rain from weeks or months ago, filtered, cooled, and naturally pressurized from deep within the earth. But here's the magic. That spring water doesn't stop at the pool. It flows downstream, feeding creeks like Barton Creek, which pour into rivers like the Colorado and ultimately wind their way towards the Gulf of Mexico. So when you look at Barton Springs, you're not just looking at a backyard oasis. You're looking at the headwaters of an entire ecosystem. And Barton's not alone. We've got Comal Springs in New Braunfels, San Marcos Springs, Jacob's Well, and dozens more, all connected to a vast underground network. Some through the Edwards Aquifer, others through the Trinity Aquifer. Each one doing the quiet, vital work of keeping Texas rivers alive. These springs are the arteries of Central Texas. They supply drinking water. They power economies. They preserve endangered species. And they carry the history, the culture, and the literal lifeblood of our region from the hill country all the way to the coast. But long before policymakers and hydrologists showed up, someone else was already listening to the springs, the indigenous peoples of Texas. See, to them, the springs weren't just useful, they were sacred. Tribes like the Cohilatican traveled a sacred circuit between the four fountain springs, Barton, San Marcos, Comal, and San Pedro. These springs weren't just destinations, they were spiritual waypoints, pilgrimage sites, places of healing, blessing, prayer. They didn't just visit the water, they documented its power. In places like the White Shaman mural near the Pecos River, carbon dated over 4,000 years ago, ancient rock art shows these sacred springs aligning in symbolic form. The mural doesn't just tell a story of geography, it captures creation, ceremony, and a deep respect for water as a living force. As one elder put it, water isn't just recreation, it's creation. It created us. To the tribes, you don't just swim in this water, you connect with it. And once it knows you, it remembers you. That kind of reverence can teach us something in an age of groundwater permits and climate modeling. That water isn't just a utility, it's a relationship. So when a spring dries up, it's not just a swimming hole lost. It's a warning light on the dashboard of our water futures. So here's the problem. We're not just dealing with a dry spell. We're in the thick of a multi-year drought, and it's not just hard on lawns and lake days. It's slamming the very aquifers that keep our springs, our rivers, and our communities alive. Meanwhile, Central Texas is exploding in population, construction, traffic, and yes, demand for water. The region is one of the fastest growing in the country. People are moving here in droves. And every new subdivision, strip mall, and splash pad comes with a new straw in the aquifer. They're being drained faster than they can recharge. It's like trying to fill a bathtub with a coffee straw while someone's yanking the plug. We're over pumping. We're pulling groundwater out for homes, agriculture, and industry, and we're under planning, still acting like we've got an unlimited tap at the water bill. And the result? Even iconic springs like Jacob's Well, once a crystal clear diving spot that literally fed rivers, are drying up. Not seasonally, not temporarily, repeatedly, and sometimes for years. And unlike your Uncle Larry's backyard pool, you can't just top these off with a garden hose. This water took weeks, months, sometimes years to move through the Earth's limestone layers. Once it's gone, you're not getting it back on Amazon Prime. And here's the kicker. When the springs dry up, it's not just swimmers who lose out. Creeks go dry, rivers shrink, ecosystems collapse, wells go offline, and cities scramble. This isn't science fiction. This is already happening. So if you're still thinking, it's just a drought, things will come back, you might be missing the bigger picture. Because this isn't just a weather problem. And you really can't call it a management problem all on its own. It's a math problem. It's a growth problem. It's a values problem. And if we don't start treating water like the finite resource that it is, we're going to learn. We'll learn real fast what it means to run a project with zero contingency plan. The hashtag Hard Knock lesson, if you fail to plan for the drought will do the planning for you. And I can hear the keyboard conspiracy theorists already. How do you want to tell me it's not a management problem? What's being done, Mark, huh? Well, let's talk about what's being done, because I have some good news for you. Yeah, that's right, I said good news. The Edwards Aquifer Authority drew a line in the limestone, literally. They put a cap on groundwater production. That means there's a legal limit to how much water can be pumped from the aquifer. No more endless permits. No more free-for-all withdrawals. That alone, massive. It's the difference between stewardship and strip mining. It protects Barton Springs, San Marcos Springs, Comal Springs, all lifelines that support endangered species, local economies, and yes, sweaty humans in need of a swim. Cities like Austin and San Antonio have stepped up too. They're investing in conservation easements to preserve land that feeds the aquifers. Aquifer recharge projects that bank water underground during wet times. And one water schools that reuse rainwater, AC runoff, and even treated gray water to flush toilets and water grass. This cuts water use by up to 90%. And these aren't just band-aids. They're blueprints for a more resilient water future. And get this, some water districts are implementing tiered permit systems where your allowed water use shrinks the deeper we go into drought. That's smart. It's science-backed regulation rooted in long-term sustainability, not short-term panic. But here's the bad news, and it's a doozy. Outside of those protected zones, it's the Wild West. Springs like Jacob's Well, the canaries in our limestone coal mine. They're left out to dry, over and over. Why? Well, because in Texas, groundwater is treated as private property. If it's under your land, it's yours to pump. No limits, no sharing, no coordination, unless a local groundwater district steps in. And that's where the rubber meets the red dirt. Conservation often loses to development. Developers bring money. Conservation brings a slower pace and fewer campaign donations. So unless your spring happens to host an endangered salamander or lives inside a protected water district, you're out of luck. The law is still catching up to the crisis. The hashtag Hard Knock lesson, you can't manage what you refuse to treat as a shared resource. And you can't build a future on a well that's already dry. So what can we do? Well, here's your Hard Knock water lesson. Conserve water daily. especially outdoors. Look, your Bermuda grass isn't endangered, but our springs are. Landscape smarter. Water early or late in the day. Replace thirsty lawns with native plants. Fix those leaks, all of them, and skip the 7-day sprinkler schedule like it's your ex's playlist. Better yet, start collecting rainwater. One good downpour can fill a barrel and help you keep your plants happy without draining the aquifer. Support your local groundwater conservation district. They're not sexy, they don't have viral TikToks, but they do hold the line between smart water use and bone-dry springs. Show up at meetings, ask questions, share their updates. Because when the community backs the science has power. Otherwise, it's just paperwork gathering dust. And vote with water in mind. Development is inevitable. Dehydration isn't. Push for candidates and policies that cap unsustainable groundwater pumping, that fund aquifer recharge projects, that protect sensitive recharge zones with conservation easements. If your rep thinks One Water is a boy band, you might want to reconsider the ballot. And teach your kids, because if they grow up thinking dry creeks and dead wells are just how it is, we've already lost. Don't let that baseline that we grew up with shift for the next generation. Tell them the stories about the 4 sacred springs, about water flowing up into the sky, and about how the land remembers. Let them swim in Barton Springs. Let them see Jacob's well, even when it's dry. Then ask them what they'll do when it's their turn to lead. Water wisdom isn't a luxury. It's a survival skill. And get involved. Volunteer. Donate. Speak up. Organizations like Comal Conservation, Wimberley Valley Watershed Association, and the Meadows Center are doing the hard, unglamorous, essential work of preserving land, studying springs, and holding the line. They're out there pulling water samples while you're refreshing Netflix. Join them. Even small efforts ripple outward. And remember, springs don't vote, but you do. The hashtag Hard Knock lesson: you're not just saving a spring, you're preserving culture, ecosystems, and a future where Texas kids still know what cold, clear water feels like on a 105-degree day. So what's at stake? It's not just clear water or property values. It's deeper than that. It's our identity, our resilience, and whether we're the kind of ancestors worth remembering. Because long before Texas had highways or hashtags, before we built cities or drew up water rights, the people who first walked this land knew something we're just now remembering. Water isn't a resource, it's a relative. The indigenous peoples of Central Texas didn't just use the springs, they revered them. They documented their flow in cave paintings. They mapped them into sacred ceremony. They taught their children, touch this water and it will remember you. Think about that. Because we're the ones deciding whether this sacred connection survives another generation. We're the ones choosing whether kids swim in spring-fed creeks or grow up thinking dry riverbeds are normal. So if you've ever cooled off in Barton Springs, floated the Comal on a too-hot Saturday, stood in awe at Jacob's well and felt something ancient stir in your bones, then this is your call. This is your moment. And yeah, it's going to take more than a garden hose and good intentions. But we've never been afraid of hard things, have we? Let's stop draining our future. Let's start recharging it with science, with stewardship, and with the same damn stubborn love that got us this far. Because the water will remember us too. I'm Mark Caples. This has been a hashtag Hard Knock lesson worth remembering. Let's get to work.